And on another subject, you mentioned at the last briefing that you think Republicans wanted to defund the police because they did not support the American Rescue Plan. Which Republican ever said that they did not like the American Rescue Plan because they wanted to defund the police?
Well, first, let me just note that the president ran and won the most votes of any candidate in history on a platform of boosting funding for law enforcement after Republicans spent decades trying to cut the COPS program. There's record of that. That doesn't require anyone having new comments, and then also stood in the way of crucial funding needed to prevent the laying off of police officers as crimes increased. That's a simple statement of fact.
I understand what you're saying there. However, there are lots of examples of Democrats explicitly saying they want to defund the police. We've got Congresswoman Cori Bush, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar. Are there any examples of Republican members of Congress saying they want to defund the police?
I think most people would argue that actions are more important than words, wouldn't you say?
Well, to that point, to your point there, at the time of the vote on the American Rescue Plan, you had the Republican leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell. He said he just didn't like it because he thought it was a classic example of big government Democratic overreach in the name of COVID relief. And then Kevin McCarthy said he thought Democrats were using coronavirus as an excuse to justify funding pet projects.
Well,
where is we're going to vote against this because we want to defund the police?
Again, I think actions speak louder than words, Peter. So if you oppose funding for the COPS program, something that was dramatically cut by the prior administration and many Republicans supported, and then you vote against a bill that has funding for the COPS program, we can let other people evaluate what that means. It doesn't require them to speak to it or to shout it out. Their actions speak for themselves.
Can I just ask one quick question on police reform? Sources are telling us that they have now hit a major roadblock in negotiations. I'm curious if the president has been briefed on that. When was the last time that he spoke to the lead negotiators, including Republican Tim Scott?
We're in regular touch with the negotiators. I don't have a timeline or a specific last call with the president, but senior members of his team are certainly in close touch. We'll let them speak to where they are in the process and where they are in moving the process forward. The president remains eager to sign the police reform bill into law. Go ahead.
On police,
Go ahead. Let me go to April and then I'll come back if that's okay. Go ahead, April.
on police reform, there is a stumbling block. It's qualified immunity. We're hearing that mainstream policing organizations are upset about the financial piece, that it could possibly bankrupt police officers and police departments. What does the administration feel about that? For police to be held accountable and there to be transparency on this, and these police agencies are saying no because of the financial component of it. What do you say?
Well, I would say, April, that there's an ongoing discussion and negotiation between Democrats and Republicans. We're not going to weigh in on that more specifically from here. The president believes that it's important that police reform is long overdue. There are difficult components of this discussion. A lot of those are happening in private, which is the place where they should continue to move forward.
Would the president be okay with police reform, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, to be passed without qualified immunity or component of qualified?
We're not going to get ahead of the negotiators who are representing the interests, having challenging discussions, no doubt, about how to move this forward. We'll take a look at it when they have the framework and they're ready to talk about it publicly.
And is there also concern now that Senator Tim Scott has the support of Senator Lindsey Graham on this policing issue?
Is there concern he has his support?
Yeah.
Again, April, once they are ready to talk, once the negotiators are ready to talk about the specifics of the framework and where they are, I'm sure we can speak to that from here. We're not at that point quite yet. Go ahead.
Are you expecting the framework to come out? Tim Scott was supposed to have it today.
We'll leave it to the negotiators to convey when they're ready to talk about it publicly. Go ahead.